This is WFYI News Now. It's August 29th, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. On today's show, enrollment in virtual schools has exploded in recent years. Maintaining roads and bridges will likely cost local governments nearly $2 billion a year over the next decade. And after a $1 billion error last year, Indiana Medicaid officials say they've been adjusting their processes for financial reporting and forecasting.
We're setting up a reporting structure and review process so that we can identify certain trends and risks that we may have not been able to catch in the past.
Those stories are coming up, but first, Black artists will debut their work in Indianapolis at the 4th Annual Butterfine Art Fair. The multi-day event features artwork crafted by local, national, and international artists. About 60 artists will showcase their paintings, photographs, poetry, and other artwork at this year's fair. Butter was created by cultural development group Gang Gang in 2021. Since then, the event has seen more than 32,000 attendees. Molly Bacon, co-founder of Gang Gang, says it's all about supporting the artists.
They have been able to now have an income that allows them to do their art full time, and we are telling the story of them as a professional working artist.
Alan Bacon is the other co-founder of Gang Gang.
Being able to have a platform where your voice can be heard and shared to that magnitude is something that I think is an amazing caveat.
Organizers expect more than 10,000 people to attend this year's Butter that starts Thursday and runs through Labor Day weekend. Enrollment in virtual schools has exploded in recent years as districts across the state continue to add online-only options. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Kirsten Adair reports thousands of new students across the state will complete their coursework online.
Jamie Colleen is the Executive Director of Indiana Gateway Digital Academy, a public online-only academy that partners with Clarksville Community Schools. Colleen says the virtual school enrolled nearly 2,300 students in 2021.
I can confidently say we'll double that this year.
In fact, Colleen says the school is inching closer to its enrollment cap of 6,500 students. Enrollment numbers won't be finalized until September 30th, but he says it's clear that online school is in high demand in Indiana. Colleen says the momentum virtual schools have is likely to continue as more students consider their options and look outside their own districts. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Kirsten Adair.
It will likely cost Indiana's local governments nearly $2 billion a year over the next decade just to maintain roads and bridges in the condition they're in now. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith reports there's a nearly $1 billion gap between that need and current funding levels.
Roads and bridges maintained by local governments account for 85% of the total lane miles in the state. Currently, 31% of city and town roads are in poor condition, while 27% of county roads are poor. Those numbers come from the Local Technical Assistance Program at Purdue University, which works with almost every local government in the state to study its roads. LTAP also prepared the funding estimates for maintaining and improving local road conditions, as lead research engineer Jennifer Sharkey told lawmakers.
And identified a funding gap of $987 million to upwards of $2.41 billion annually for the next 10 years.
That's as the Indiana Department of Transportation expects the purchasing power of transportation revenue to steadily decrease over the next 2 decades. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
And for our final story today, Indiana Medicaid officials say they've been adjusting their processes for financial reporting and forecasting to avoid future budget problems after a $1 billion error last year. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Abigail Ruman reports officials are starting their forecasting process earlier than normal and will continue to adjust the forecast as they collect more data.
The Indiana Family and Social Services Administration announced in January it would be improving its Medicaid forecasting and budget monitoring processes. It started publishing monthly financial reports in May. Paul Bowling is the chief financial officer for FSSA. He says the agency shares the reports with experts from other state agencies to get feedback and develop commentary to improve the accuracy of this year's forecast.
We're setting up a reporting structure and review process so that we can identify certain trends and risks that we may have not been able to catch in the past.
Bowling says there are 3 goals for the new process: reduce data lag, identify emerging risks, and produce a more detailed review of trends in the forecast. Medicaid officials will present the next forecast at the State Budget Committee meeting in December. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Abigail Ruman.
And that's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.